Porquê é que querem espalhar estas ideias?
Well, the objective is to change the world.
Eu tenho muito mais impacto aqui do que vocês irem 1000 vezes à África e virem.
Absolutely, I agree with that completely.
Como é que funciona esta filosofia?
That's a big question. The fundamental truth is the evidence of the senses. What you see is true.
Se funciona, porque é que nunca funcionou em lado nenhum? Será que eu estou aqui ou eu estou num sonho?
No, you're not dreaming.
Não?
No.
Existe Deus no Objetivismo?
Right? So if you say there is a God, who created him?
Esse é o único facto que eu tenho. Portanto, parece-me que...
Who are you? You're just a human being. I'm God. I don't follow orders. I'm not very good at that, generally.
Deus cria todos e mata todos. E, como se diz em Portugal, mais vale aceitar que dói menos.
I mean, if God came to you and said, go kill your son, I mean, my argument would be, go to hell.
Eu teria que dizer que não concordo.
Sure. But,
Qual é a visão do objetivismo em relação, por exemplo, ao aborto? É uma pergunta difícil. Olá, peeps, daqui Guru Mike Billings. Bem-vindos ao meu podcast. O meu objetivo aqui é partilhar informação, abrir mentes para que as pessoas possam melhorar a sua forma de ver o mundo e possam ouvir outras ideias e se calhar lutar contra a censura. Por um lado, invisto tempo, invisto dinheiro e faço exclusivamente em língua portuguesa porque é a língua do povo que me viu nascer. Por outro lado, tu podes investir também no canal. Subscreve o canal, dá um like no canal, um comentário, também ajuda sempre a chegarmos ao máximo de pessoas. Partilha com amigos, pessoas que acham que possam usufruir desta mensagem e também ativa as notificações, já agora. Ajudem-me a curar alguns zombies. Let's go, Kitipério! E agora, o podcast.
Isto é o Kitipério CdK. Diz-me se sabes qual é o feeling. Fico sempre à espera de ser quarta-feira para poder ver o nosso Mike Billings.
Yaron, muito obrigado por estar aqui. É um prazer recebê-lo. Já tínhamos isto marcado há algum tempo, não foi possível. E agora finalmente estamos juntos para falar um bocado sobre esta filosofia do objetivismo.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm looking forward to our discussion. Should be fun.
Let's go!
Yeah.
Eu tenho aqui uma... Acho que primeiro precisávamos de contextualizar a nossa audiência sobre o que é que é isto do Ayn Rand Institute, não é?
It's an organization set up in 1985 to really promote the ideas of Ayn Rand, to promote her ideas and to make them part of the culture. And it has educational programs, it sponsors talks all over the world, it sponsors essay contests, and it encourages people to read Ayn Rand's novels. It has conferences. We've done quite a few events, for example, in Portugal, in both Lisbon and in Porto. And the idea is to take Ayn Rand, the novelist, the author of Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead, and to make her ideas more available to people really everywhere in the world. Her books are all translated, so they're available in Portuguese, but then in pretty much every other major language.
Ok, e porquê que querem espalhar estas ideias? Qual é que é o objetivo final?
Well, the objective is to change the world. Ayn Rand had a radical philosophy, a philosophy that's very different than what we kind of live with today, both in terms of its implications for our personal lives and how we live our lives as individuals, and in terms of the political implications, in terms of what government should be about, how they should govern, and what principles the governing should be based. She was radical in all of these things, and I think she was right. And it's a tragedy and sad that the world is, it functions, again, both at the personal individual level and at the political level in a very, very different way. I think it's tragic for the individuals and it's tragic for us as countries and as people who live in the world.
Então pensa que as ideias da filósofa Ayn Rand poderiam trazer um benefício objetivo ao mundo, é isso?
Absolutely. I think there's a massive, huge benefit to not just to the world, whatever that is, right? To humanity, if you will, but to every single individual. So even if humanity doesn't accept them, just an individual embracing these ideas, I think they improve that individual's life dramatically. They bring purpose to life. I think there's there seems to be a crisis of meaning. We talk a lot about in the world about a crisis of meaning. I think it exists. And I think objectivism, Ayn Rand's philosophy, it offers real solutions to how to live a meaningful, purposeful, moral, ethical life that ultimately leads to happiness, to flourishing life. So yes, it's a massive benefit.
Interessante. Como é que... vamos falar de ideias práticas, ou seja, as pessoas ouviram agora que isto pode mudar a minha vida, isto pode melhorar a minha vida, isto pode dar um benefício de saber qual é o meu propósito, mas em termos práticos, como é que funciona então esta filosofia?
That's a big question. But look, we all have to be guided by some principles in our lives. We have to make decisions every single day on what we should and shouldn't do, how we should behave. And the dominant philosophy that exists out there in the world is a philosophy that says that when it comes to important things in life, when it comes to morality, ethics, you really should be focused on other people. What's important is others. Think of yourself last. Think of other people first. That's goodness, right? That's virtue. Nobody's ever done anything meaningful in life by thinking of others first and himself last. And you're not going to be successful in life, and you're not going to flourish. You're not going to be happy if your entire mental focus is on other people. And of course, the question is, why should I think of other people first? I am me. I am alive. So why shouldn't the starting point be me, right? So let's take a businessman who is very successful, right? Makes a lot of money. And society looks at him with suspicion. And why? Because how do you make a lot of money? By thinking of yourself first. That's bad and evil according to conventional morality. And what happens to the businessman, and this is where the real tragedy is, he starts feeling guilty for his success. Now, you're still young, so maybe the guilt hasn't caught up with you yet. But as businessmen get older and they get more contemplative, they contemplate themselves, they start feeling guilty. And that's an incredible tragedy. Well, how do you make money? You make money by creating values. You make money by trading with people. You make money by making your life better, but also by making the world a better place to live. And yet, you're expected to feel guilty. And many businessmen do feel guilty for that wealth. And that's tragic. Now, imagine if a philosophy came along and said, businessmen, they're the heroes of the world. They're heroes because they have pursued their own self-interest. Now, assuming they haven't lied and cheated to get the money, assuming they've produced. They're heroes because they produce. Production is the way in which human beings survive. And it's necessary. They're just better at production than the rest of us. That's why they make a lot of money. And they've made the world a better place. They've made their life better. They've made their family's life better. They pursued their values. They're the good guys. They're the heroes. Now imagine what implication that has to people's self-esteem, to their confidence, to the number of people who become entrepreneurs, to the tax system, because today the tax system is built on penalizing you because you're rich, and everybody supports it. Why? Well, because obviously you're a bad guy if you're rich. Nobody's going to defend you. Nobody's going to get a feel for you. But the reality is that you're doing things that are actually heroic. So it has a practical implication, I think, for anybody starting out in their career, thinking about what they want to do in life, or somebody who's been successful and now has to think about, how do I think about my success? And Objectivism says, if you're successful, and you're really successful, that is, you achieved it through, honest, productive activity, you should be proud of yourself. You should have self-esteem, and you should, ultimately, it'll lead to your happiness. Stop the guilt. So that's just one dimension, but think about that now in really every aspect of our life. Attitude towards really every activity we have in life. And Objectivism is unbelievably practical because it applies to all these things.
Super interessante. Nestes minutos que falou, tenho tanta coisa interessante para eu pegar. E disse-me uma coisa que eu achei super interessante, que é em relação à minha pessoa, que é, Miguel, tu tens muito sucesso, ainda não pensaste no assunto. Eu por acaso fui ao contrário. Eu antes de começar a trabalhar perguntei o que é bom e o que é mau. seja, eu curiosamente cheguei a uma filosofia muito parecida com o objetivismo, mas venho de um caminho completamente distinto. Eu começava por perguntar, porque eu estou a falar com uma pessoa que é um cidadão americano, não é? Eu pensava que essa ideia do empresário ser mau seria uma cena mais do mundo do socialismo e do comunismo e não num sítio como a América. Eu aqui, não, quando vou à América vejo um ambiente mais de as pessoas valorizarem a riqueza e perguntam como é que tu conseguiste isso, como é que fizeste. Mas, ou seja, a minha pergunta é... eu estou à frente de um americano que pensa de uma forma... Mas está-me a fazer uma declaração diferente da minha percepção da realidade quando vou à América.
I think that Americans have the sense they should admire businessmen, and business is somewhat good. But that's not the reality of how they live. I'll give you an example. I once attended a businessman, it was a lunch event, Lifetime Achievement Awards for business leaders. This was in South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina. And I was the speaker at this luncheon. And everybody, there were like 5 people who received an award, and they had a bio that they read. And they read the bio, and the bio was like a sentence and a half about their business achievement. And all the rest was about the charity and the community service and all that stuff that they do, right? And because that's what people value. They don't value the business.
Interesting.
And then when the people came up and said, thank you, they talked about the community service and the charity that they did. And I was the speaker. So I got up and I said, you should be ashamed of yourselves. You're not getting the award for your community service and charity. Community service and charity are nice, but they don't change the world. And they don't make the world a better place in any significant way.
Exactly.
It's your business that is the achievement.
Yes.
It's the money you made. Making money is the achievement because you can't make money unless you're producing values, unless you're being creative, being productive. You know, America didn't go from 1776, when it was a pretty poor place and, you know, a colony and the English didn't even fight that hard to keep it, to the most powerful economy in the world 150 years later because of charity and community service.
Exactly.
It got there because businessmen went out and pursued values and made money and created the country. And what do we call those businessmen? The businessmen in the 19th century who built this country. It wasn't politicians and generals who built this country. Who built this country? It was business leaders. And what do we call them in America? We call them robber barons. Barons, which is an aristocratic term, which don't make money, you inherit it, and robber, thief. So we call the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and the Mellons and the J.P. Morgans, we call them robber barons. So even in America, there is this negative attitude towards wealth creation. You're seeing it even more so today with hostility to, you know, big tech executives,
Exactly.
and, you know, and no more billionaires and end of billions.
Yeah.
And it's mostly from the left, but it's not only from the left. You're seeing a lot of that hostility come from the right. And of course, religion has a lot to do with it. Christianity is not friendly towards wealth creation. It's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than a camel to go through the eye of a needle. That's pretty hard. So
A minha interpretação dessa passagem bíblica é completamente diferente. E eu acredito nisto, que é muito parecido com esta visão que tem. Que é, eu quando parei para pensar, quando tinha 18 anos, o que é que eu devo fazer com o meu tempo, a minha conclusão foi, eu tenho que produzir valor. E comecei a trabalhar na minha empresa e, passado algumas empresas, comecei a ter muito sucesso. E eu via amigos que iam, por exemplo, levar alimentos à África. E eles diziam-me assim, Miguel, porquê é que não vens connosco? Eu dizia, eu tenho muito mais impacto aqui do que vocês irem 1000 vezes à África e virem. Porque eu, quando pago ordenados às pessoas, quando crio produtos, quando faço sistemas de logística, de software, eu estou a elevar o standard de vida das pessoas que estão ao meu lado. Estas pessoas depois elevam o standard de vida das outras pessoas e esta é a única forma realmente de melhorar o mundo. Porque se fosse a caridade que melhorasse o mundo, a África já tinha o seu problema resolvido há muito tempo.
Absolutely. I agree with that completely. But I would say there's another element to that which you might recognize implicitly, but I think people have a hard time saying explicitly. I'm doing what I enjoy doing. I'm doing what is a challenge for me. I'm pursuing my values. Yes, other people benefit because that's the way values work, and that's how, win-win trade relationships. But the primary motivation in life shouldn't be to help the other. The primary motivation should be to make your life the best life that it can be, to live the best life possible. And that will entail helping others because of the trader principle, because when we trade, we help each other. But the focus, the whole orientation should be, this is good for me, and yes, others are benefiting from it. That's fantastic.
Ok. A minha experiência também não foi exatamente assim. Eu tive muito sucesso passado 10, 12 anos da minha carreira, e então já tinha atingido, acho que, muita coisa, muito rápido. Ou seja, tinha uma família muito boa, tinha 3 filhos, tinha saúde, tinha muito dinheiro, tinha tempo. E cheguei a um momento em que me senti mesmo, ou seja, nessa perseguição da minha satisfação, eu perdi a satisfação. E só voltei a reencontrar a satisfação quando eu vi que há tanta gente que se pode melhorar a vida que há alguma razão para eu acordar de manhã. Ou seja, se calhar funciona muitas vezes, mas eu deparei-me com essa barreira pessoal, no meu caso.
I think that's right, but I think that's because, knowingly or unknowingly, you were inculcated with a set of values, with a morality that was antagonistic to your own well-being. And therefore, you couldn't bring yourself to fully enjoy what you had created and what you made. You couldn't find purpose and meaning in it. And in order to find purpose and meaning, you had to adjust to this external morality, to this morality, Christian morality, a altruistic morality, an other-oriented morality. And I think that's unhealthy. I don't think that's consistent with human nature. I don't think that's consistent with true long-term human flourishing. I think you can find meaning and purpose, and need to find meaning and purpose in your productive activity, in your life, in your values. And yes, other people will benefit from that. But the other people benefiting from it, I don't think is a healthy focus for people to have. Okay. And note that, you made the transition after you were already wealthy, but the question, would have you become wealthy if you'd had that, perspective from the beginning? And I'm not sure. So, my view is the culture conditions us, and whether we want to or not.
Of course.
And I'd say the culture conditions mostly negatively in terms of these moral values. And what I'm arguing is Ayn Rand provides us with a set of positive values that actually allow you to see meaning and purpose in your career, to see meaning and purpose in the values you created and in the family that is around you, without looking for something external like, I have to have these others as a purpose or a meaning.
Ok, mas já falou 2 vezes aqui na questão do cristianismo. E sem dúvida que o cristianismo tem impacto em toda a gente que vive no mundo ocidental. Ou seja, nós navegamos numa espécie de aquário do cristianismo. Mas eu se calhar passava a explicar porque é que eu discordo absolutamente da ideia de que o cristianismo só nos leva a, por exemplo, a não procurar a riqueza e coisas desse tipo. Por exemplo, vou explicar. Na parábola que estamos a ouvir, que estávamos a falar sobre o camelo, não é? Que é mais difícil um camelo passar pelo buraco de uma agulha do que ir para o céu. No contexto daquela comunidade, os ricos eram vistos de uma forma completamente diferente da forma como são vistos agora. Na altura do Império Romano, a virtude era o poder, a riqueza e a força. Ou Só mais tarde é que veio o cristianismo, que veio mudar completamente. Então, aquelas pessoas que estavam a assistir aquilo, quando ouvem as palavras de Jesus a dizer que é mais difícil um camelo passar por um buraco de agulha do que para entrar no reino dos céus, não é? O mais importante é a pergunta que vem a seguir dos seus, digamos, seguidores. A pergunta que vem a seguir é: então, quem poderá entrar no reino dos céus? E Deus responde assim, porque as pessoas pensavam assim, se um rico que consegue fazer as suas responsabilidades, ajudar os pobres, não consegue entrar no reino dos céus, então eu que sou pobre e que tenho que viver única e exclusivamente para mim, eu estou absolutamente condenado. E a resposta de Jesus foi: o que é impossível ao homem é possível a Deus. Ou seja, a salvação está em Deus e não no próprio homem. É assim que eu interpreto essa passagem. Mas em muitas outras passagens da Bíblia há a promoção da produção da riqueza e do serviço e da diligência e do trabalho. Portanto, eu, na minha influência cristã, sempre achei muita energia e muita força para ganhar o máximo de dinheiro possível, sempre com uma estrutura legal e formal e moral.
So objectivism challenges all of that, right? It challenges.
Let's go.
What's that?
Let's
Yeah,
challenge.
absolutely. It challenges the idea that you gain salvation through God. It challenges the idea that you need salvation, right? It challenges the idea of any kind of original sin. It challenges the idea that Christianity actually has morals.
Existe Deus no objetivismo?
No. I mean, objectivism is a philosophy of reason.
Uh-huh.
So faith is out. So everything has to be achieved through reason, and therefore it needs evidence and it needs proof. So it's not that the objectivism is focused on the rejection; it's focused on the positive, right? Everything needs to bring everything before reason, right? And let reason determine its truth based on reason. It's the only way to determine truth. So the whole conception, at the end of in Christianity, I mean, look, we could get a theological discussion about what Christianity means, and no two Christians agree. Never mind. But at its core, Christianity is it says you shouldn't live for yourself, right? You should live for others. You should live ultimately for God. You should live for salvation, for an afterlife. The real benefit, the real reward is in an afterlife. It's not here. I think that cheapens life. I think it cheapens this world. Objectivism is this worldly. It's about this life. It's about achieving happiness, in this life, not in some afterlife. Because even at best, right, the most I could concede is we don't know. I'm pretty sure there's no afterlife, but okay, so we don't know. But we certainly have no certainty about it. So I know I'm alive. I know I have this life. I want to make the most of this life. I want to live the best life that I can live in this world because this is all I am certain about. So objectivism is oriented completely around how do you achieve a successful, happy, flourishing in an Aristotelian sense. Eudaimonia, achieve personal flourishing in this world. And by focusing on what are the values necessary to achieve that? How do we achieve success in life? What are the principles that lead us to flourish, to do well? And it rejects anything that requires a faith or anything that requires revelation and belief because somebody said so. And so it rejects religion. And if we look at human history, the reality of human history is that when religion triumphs, triumphs in the sense that it has political power, that it can do what it wants. Humanity is poor, miserable, and it's horrible. Life is horrible. That's the Dark Ages. That's on the Islam, that's Iran. That's every theocracy in history. Every place that's ruled by religion is a nightmare. And when we start eliminating religion from important parts of our life, when we minimize its influence, that's when we flourish. That's when we do well. I mean, the Renaissance is a good example. The Renaissance is a period where we rediscover Greek ideas, secular Greek ideas, and where Christianity starts playing a smaller and smaller role in human life. And what happens? Well, in the Renaissance, beauty happens. And the Enlightenment, ideas happen. And the culmination of the Enlightenment is America, with its individual right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the Constitution. Those are all products of the marginalization of religion and the focus on human life in this world and what it takes to be successful in this world, without regard to religious dogma and without regard to an afterlife.
Interessante. Eu, pessoalmente, quando comecei a olhar para o mundo, tentei ver que ferramentas é que eu possuía para conseguir interpretar este mundo e procurar se existe verdade ou não. E uma das minhas procuras principais foi na razão e na ciência. Mas rapidamente vi os limites epistemológicos que existem no conhecimento. Eu pessoalmente considero que a religião é a única chance de conseguirmos realmente aceder a uma possibilidade de verdade ou não, não é? Eu não estou a dizer que a religião é necessariamente verdade, mas é uma chance de esperança de poder chegar à verdade. Eu digo isto porque, apesar de eu achar super interessante a filosofia do objetivismo, eu deparo-me com todas as problemáticas, principalmente epistemológicas, que tem. Ou seja, quando nós baseamos a nossa ideia de que a razão e a observação da realidade é verdade, não é? Ou nos leva para a verdade, e depois começamos a fazer toda a nossa estrutura de raciocínio, inclusive a moralidade, em cima desta estrutura da visão do mundo pela razão, eu acho que no fim voltamos ao mesmo problema de sempre, que é a subjetividade da moral. Ou seja, vou tentar dizer isto numa frase. Como o nível de conhecimento e o nível de racionalidade que eu executo pode ser diferente do seu, nós podemos discordar sobre a mesma observação da realidade. Isso faz com que um de nós está certo e um de nós está errado. Se nós não temos acesso à quantidade de informação total, nós temos uma probabilidade muito grande de nunca aceder realmente à verdade. Não sei se me fiz entender ou se ficou confuso demais.
But the religion doesn't help you with that. That is true no matter what.
A religião é uma esperança, não é? Ou seja, se eu acreditar na revelação, é a única solução. É um ser, um agente eterno e omnisciente comunicar a realidade. Mas é uma esperança.
But it's completely arbitrary. And indeed, my revelation is different than your revelation. In America, we have 1,000 different Protestant sects. Each one of them has a different revelation. And then they're Catholics, and then they're Jews, and they're Muslims, and they don't agree with one another. And when I studied the Bible, the Hebrew Bible, we studied what the rabbis had to say about every sentence, and every rabbi disagreed with the other rabbi about what that sentence mean. So on the contrary, think about the religious wars in Europe. Think about the millions slaughtered because of a different interpretation, right? God, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, are they one? Are they three dimensions? I mean, semantics, and yet they slaughtered each other. So there's no objective truth in religion. The fact is, religion is completely subjective. It's completely dependent on what you bring to your experience of revelation and to what you bring to the reading of the books. There is no authority. There is no truth. It's completely subjective. And if the two of us have different experiences in life, and we come to different conclusions, and one of us is right and one of us is wrong, we have the tools to communicate and to convince one another that one is right and one is wrong. I can bring the evidence to my case, and you can bring the evidence to your case, and we can compare, And we can adjust our expectations and we can discover the truth. Reason is the way in which we discover truth.
Ok, mas isso, o facto de nós estarmos a discutir com a utilização da razão, não quer dizer que tenhamos a capacidade de chegar à verdade.
But we reach truth all the time. Every single moment of every single day. You couldn't live unless you reach truth, right? Because the fundamental truth is the evidence of the senses. What you see is true. And you live that. You're sitting in a chair right now, and you didn't fall when you sat down because you observed the chair and you knew the truth of the chair's existence and you sat on it. So, that's epistemology.
Mas isso também é preciso fé. Será que eu estou aqui ou eu estou num sonho?
No, you're not dreaming.
No?
No.
Are you sure?
Because there's no evidence you're dreaming. The only evidence is that you're here. The only evidence exists that you're here. So you see, we can make up whatever we want. But making up is not something that's cognition. It's not a theory. The Matrix is a nice story, but it's not a philosophical theory. It's just made up stuff. The arbitrary is not cognition. I can't disprove an arbitrary state. There's an invisible gremlin under the table. Mm-hmm. You can't see it because it's invisible, but it's there, and it's affecting the mood in the room. Now you can't prove me wrong because I made a statement that has no connection to reality. See, to be right or wrong, we have to connect it to physical, to actual reality. And the only tool to do that is reason. Once we go outside of reason, the gremlin or a dream, that is completely non-cognitive. That is it's not even not true, right? It's not even a statement of reality.
Mas, por exemplo, se eu tiver uma experiência de alucinação, uma experiência sensorial, como às vezes eu posso ouvir um barulho que não está lá, ou seja, eu devo assim confiar de tal forma nos sentidos, não é?
Well, all you have is the senses. That is all you have. Now your senses you can be deceived by something. That is, your mind can interpret what you're getting from the senses wrongly, and you have to always be able to. You have multiple senses. You can connect it to past experience. You can connect it to your knowledge of physics or your knowledge of But at the end of the day, all we have is our senses. That's the only way in which we know about the world. Our feelings are not means of cognition. They're not means to truth. They don't tell us the truth. And revelation doesn't exist. There is no thing of revelation. Revelation is just a thought we have and an interpretation of something that we have. So no, I don't have faith in the chair being there. I can see the chair. And every time I see a chair and I sit in it, there I go. Reality constantly confirms that my senses are pretty good. Now, do I sometimes make mistakes? Sure, we all make mistakes. But I learn from those mistakes and I refine my interpretation of the information I'm getting from my senses constantly. But that's what reason is about. The only way we can function in the world ultimately is through reason. And I think what religion does is then we live that way and then we reject it. We undermine it with skepticism and with arbitrary assertions. But it does. None of that undermines the efficacy. Look, we have science. We have, we're sitting here in a studio with lights and microphones. And this doesn't happen from faith. Nobody produced this because they felt something or something was revealed to them. Science, evidence of the senses and rational thought produces this microphone. And that's amazing to me. I mean, it's so reason is this incredibly powerful tool that we have. Science and technology and our day-to-day lives are all guided by it. I say let's embrace it all out.
I agree.
All out. And therefore there's no room for faith.
Eu aceito completamente, mas eu acho que eu pessoalmente consigo fazer as duas coisas ao mesmo tempo. Eu tenho uma realidade física, objetiva, pragmática à minha frente, que eu utilizo, eu esforço-me e faço com que produza um mundo melhor para mim, para a minha família e para todas as pessoas que me rodeiam, que eu acredito justamente que essa é a melhor forma de produzir o benefício até individual, é trabalhar dentro de uma sociedade em harmonia. Mas eu percebo também os limites desta filosofia, desta ideia, e presumo assim, mas eu sou mais do que os meus sentidos? Existe alguma coisa dentro de mim que seja diferente? E então eu vivo nesta dicotomia destas duas realidades. Mas uma coisa que eu achei interessante foi, nós estávamos a falar da ciência e de tudo que observamos com os olhos. e com os sentidos. Mas quando estávamos a falar sobre a questão de só importa o que é real, e quando eu estive aqui a estudar um bocado de objetividade, eu fui, por exemplo, olhar para qual é a visão em relação ao passado, presente e futuro da Ayn Rand. E parece que a visão objetivista é um passado infinito para que não exista criação, para que não exista um início, não é? Mas isso não é uma visão não objetiva e sim a criação de um axioma, não é?
I mean, the axiom is that existence exists. What exists exists, and you know, there is no something from nothing. Nothing can come out of something. Can't come out of nothing, right? You can't get ex nihilo creation, and therefore, whatever exists has existed always. Has always existed. And all we get is a reformulation of the physical matter in the universe. And look, you have the same problem with God, right? So if you say there is a God, and I say, who created him? And the answer is he's always been there. So okay, so he's always been there. I'm saying reality's always been here. Existence always been here. It changes.
Então também tem um Deus.
No, I'm saying the same problem of no beginning exists whether you have a God or not, or don't have a God, right? So it's the same issue, because if the world was created by God, then what created?
No caso de Deus, Deus é um agente exterior ao universo, eterno, fora do tempo. Então o tempo só começa depois de Deus criar, ou seja, é uma pergunta que não tem...
So I'm saying the universe is outside time, because it is outside time, right? Time is in the universe. No. Right, time is part of the universe, so there is no beginning of time, because time is within the universe. There is the time is not outside the universe. Space is not outside the universe. So the universe is eternal, and that's all there is to say. There's nothing. There's no more. There's no there. It's just
Mas isso cria um problema, que é, se o passado é eterno e é uma estrutura de causalidade, significa que eu nunca vou conseguir chegar a este momento onde eu estou, não é?
No, because causality is not a sequence of events. Aristotle doesn't define causality as a billiard ball, one ball hitting the other and that one moving. Causality is in the nature of the thing. It is the cause of a thing is its own nature. So, what causes the billiard ball to move is its nature when hit by another ball. Not the hitting of the other ball, but its own nature. So the nature of the universe, the nature of the universe is such that it has led to where we are today.
Mas era isso.
And what we know about it is, so, yes, if you have this infinite regress of causal relationships, then it becomes meaningless. But if you understand that causality is not about a sequence in time, but it's about the nature of a thing, then I don't think you have that problem with that metaphysical problem.
Mas repare, Yaron, repare nisto. Até agora estava a dizer que eu a única coisa que tenho são os sentidos e a razão. E quando olho para o mundo, o que eu vejo é a causalidade, é uma estrutura de sequência de eventos ligada ao tempo. Esse é o único facto que eu tenho. Portanto, parece-me que neste ponto, esta filosofia simplifica a realidade, porque primeiro está a dizer que eu tenho que usar os sentidos e a razão para compreender a realidade, e depois crio este axioma que desvirtualiza a própria realidade que eu observo.
No, I mean, causality is definitely in reality. There's no question that causality exists. Indeed, there are three axioms in objectivism. Existence exists. Mm-hmm. A is a thing is its nature, mm-hmm. and a corollary of that, another perspective on that is causality. Mm-hmm. Causality is the thing's nature in action. Mm-hmm. So it's not rejecting causality; it's just rejecting this idea of infinite regress and that there's any issue with infinite regress. The universe has no beginning. And
mas isso é fé.
No, it's not faith. That's all we know. That's all we have.
Não, nós não sabemos. Nós não sabemos.
The reality is that all we know is
Nós não
the
sabemos,
existence that we have.
mas não sabemos que o passado é infinito. Nós não sabemos isso.
Well, I wouldn't say it's infinite. I would say that it has no beginning, which is not exactly the same
Mas também
thing.
não sabemos isso.
It just means that time is within the universe. Time is not outside the universe. There's no way to measure the length of the universe or the width of the universe or when it started, when it ended, because time and length are all within the universe. They're inside of it. But these are the hard questions of metaphysics. And
But é uma crítica que se faz em objetivismo, é realmente a simplificação da realidade. E depois, quando vamos, é uma das críticas principais.
I don't think it's a simplification of reality. I think it's an acceptance of reality as it is. And to me, what you do when you bring in God is you make the reality more complicated for the sake of what? For the sake of having an authority over your life, which I think is ultimately why people need God. They don't need God in order to explain where the universe came from. They need God in order to tell them what to do. And there I think the epistemology is very dangerous because it's an epistemology of authoritarianism. Abraham doesn't need God in order to solve physics problems. He needs God in order to have somebody to obey when he goes to kill his son. So, and he says, God says, go kill your son. And he says, yes. So that is epistemologically, crazy and immoral. If God came to you and said, go kill your son, I mean, my argument would be, go to hell, God. I mean, it's a ridiculous accusation. And why do we venerate that story? We venerate that story because it's an example of obedience. And religion, when taken seriously, requires obedience. And I reject obedience. I want reasons. If God said, go kill your son, the right answer would be, why? What's the reason? And if you can't give me a reason, I'm not going to do it. So, but here's the more important point, I think, is I think you brought it up earlier. You said, in morality, we have no objectivity. In objectivism, because you think you have objectivity because it's the word of God.
It's the only way. É a única forma.
Yeah. But that's just authoritarian. Morality is just being dictated to you, and you accept it on faith. Objectivism actually proves morality. It actually shows that morality is a necessary tool, if you will, for human survival. To survive, we need to act morally. And then the question is, what kind of actions lead to human survival? So we look at nature and we look at human behavior. We use our senses and we discover the things that are good for human beings. What is good for human beings is the moral, and what destroys human life is evil. So we're not getting, and we have a very strict morality. I mean, we have clear moral values and moral virtues, and they all come from an empirical, scientific observation of reality, what actually leads to successful human life and what destroys human life. So that's what objectivity means. Objectivity means that it coheres to reality, not that is written in a stone, and accepted on faith. That is the negation of objectivity.
Interessante.
Camaradas, aproveito o tempo da antena para interromper este reacionário capitalista e comunicar o lançamento desta incrível obra literária cujo título é Porque Sou Socialista. Aqui poderás encontrar em cada página as razões pelas quais o socialismo é a solução para o proletariado. Esta obra revolucionária estará disponível nas bancas a partir da fatídica data de 25 de novembro. E não se esqueçam, camaradas, a ferramenta é da cooperativa. A revolução continua, não passamos.
Em relação à pergunta que me fez, se aparecesse Deus e me dissesse vai matar o teu filho, e eu observava eu olhava para isso de uma forma diferente. Eu diria, um agente omnisciente, omnipotente que criou o universo está-me a dizer para fazer esta atividade. Ou seja, não é a mesma coisa que o Nuno me dizer para matar um filho. Não é exatamente igual. Ou seja, da mesma forma que eu posso criar uma estrutura, vamos imaginar que eu crio alguns seres quando houver capacidade biológica para nós criarmos novos seres vivos. Ou seja, eu posso criá-los e posso destruí-los. Ou seja, digamos assim, se eu for o Deus destes seres. Eu acho que isso não é... Olhar para Deus de uma forma arbitrária, eu não achava que fosse não razoável Deus destruir toda a sua criação. Porquê que seria não razoável?
I mean, it's really hard for me even to get into the mindset of that because, I mean, I've been an atheist since I was a little kid. But look, I mean, to me, it's much, much worse when a God comes and says, kill your son than it is if your neighbor says it. He's omniscient and omnipotent. Why does he need me to kill my son? I mean, my son is all I have. Remember, it was his only son. Mm-hmm. Why would he want me to do that? What kind of evil monster would demand that I do that, given that he has everything? What benefit to him does he get from me killing my son? The only benefit he can get is my obedience. And I don't like people who want my obedience. I reject that. I rebel against that. I'm not an obedient son.
Interesting.
I want to live my life based on my reason and my thinking. I don't follow orders. I'm not very good at that generally. But just because, and look, take the story of Job, right? Here's Job, successful, wealthy, he's got a family, he's got kids, everything's going well. And God decides to test his faith. So he kills all his kids, kills his wife, destroys his business, and Job has nothing. Mm-hmm. And Job complains to God, what have you done to me? I was faithful to you. I prayed every day. I did my commandments. I did everything. Why are you doing this to me? And what's the answer that God says? The answer is, it's not for you to ask. Who are you? You're just a human being. I'm God. I have my own reasons. Don't ask. And at the end, Job accepts that. And he says, okay. And God gives him new kids and a new wife and a new business, and he's all successful. But as if people are replaceable, as if you can kill some and give them to others and just replace them that way. I mean, the story is, in my view, a real horror story of a God that doesn't care about human beings, that doesn't care about individuals, that is willing to kill and destroy in order to test somebody for his own, I don't know for his own what. Again, he's omnipotent and omniscient. You think he'd have other things to do other than, test Job. We become playthings of this God. I can't learn morality from him. Here's a God who's willing to tell you to kill your son. Here's a God who's willing to destroy your entire family to test you. He's the guy, he's an authority on morality. He has no clue what morality is.
Eu não sei se concordo. Ele também é o Deus que se tornou homem e que se sacrificou por um ser humano que é uma coisa pequeníssima à beira dele. Ou seja, isso é parte da narrativa, é parte da história. É como se fosse uma explicação. Isto não devia ser um debate de teologia.
Yeah, but that's not that's true, but that's not I want to take the Jesus story because I think it's a very, I mean, I don't want to insult or offend, right? No, but I think it's a very negative story.
Eu não concordo.
Like Jesus dies.
Temos que perceber uma coisa.
Yeah.
Deus mata-nos a todos. Everyone.
God won't. Nature will. We'll all die.
Mas quem é que... Mas a questão é, tu podes dizer que é a natureza. A realidade é que é Deus. Deus cria todos e mata todos. Ou seja, e como se diz em Portugal, mais vale aceitar que dói menos.
Oh no, I accept that I'm going to die. I just don't accept that God is killing me. And if it's God killing me, then I'm upset with God because why is he killing me? But Nate, all human beings, the nature of life is that it starts and it ends. And it's part of the nature of that. But look, you raised the issue of Jesus redeeming our sins, which I think is a really important story in Western civilization. Exactly. But really, let's think about what it means. He was a man, a God, however you want to call it, who is willing to sacrifice his life and die the most brutal, painful, horrible death, not for any sins he committed, for other people's sins. To me, that is one of the most unjust things that have ever happened.
That's true.
I am quite willing to suffer for my sins. I'm not willing to suffer for your sins. So, and yet he's our model for moral behavior. And yet he just committed a huge injustice. So again, my morality clashes with this quite significantly, and I don't accept somebody else. And let's say I'm the sinner. I don't want you to sacrifice for me. I don't want you to suffer for me.
Yeah.
That's insulting to me. That I want to take responsibility for my own sins, for my virtues and my vices. I don't want other people to suffer for them.
Sim, mas a questão aqui da teologia cristã é que o homem não conseguia pagar o preço pelo seu próprio pecado, vamos chamar assim. Ou seja, a rebelião do homem para Deus teve que ser redimida pelo próprio Deus. Por isso é que é completamente injusto, mas é completamente justo. Mas deixa-me dizer uma coisa. Até o momento de Jesus, o mundo não vivia nessa ética. Os romanos, os gregos, todas as outras civilizações do mundo, ninguém acreditava que se devia sacrificar pelo outro. A virtude era a destruição. Por exemplo, César, quando vem, por exemplo, acho que foi César, quando vem da Gália, depois de ter morto 1 milhão de pessoas, escreveram-se músicas, fizeram-se festas. Ou seja, ele tinha assassinado 1 milhão de pessoas. Assim, uma coisa gigante. Ou seja, a força, a virtude era... é um bocado, se calhar, o que estamos a dizer aqui em termos de objetivismo, mas o objetivismo é muito mais preciso e observa a realidade e percebe o valor ético da cooperação humana, do respeito pela vida, não é? Mas o que eu quero dizer é que nós temos o cristianismo que muda completamente o mundo e cria uma moralidade diferente. Mas eu, de forma objetiva, quando olho para a civilização, o que é que eu vejo? Que foram justamente estas civilizações que trouxeram a luz ao mundo.
Yeah, so if you look at it empirically, what happens is that with the rise of Christianity in the West, you get a dark ages. You get the end of civilization. Civilization ends, and people become more violent, not less violent. So the idea that Christianity brings peace to the world is wrong. It doesn't. It brings more violence, and it's only around 12th century, 13th century, AD, when scholars are rediscovering Greek ideas, rediscovering Aristotle and so on. Is the world change? Western civilization does not exist until the Renaissance, until Greek ideas re-enter the West. Christian ideas lead to poverty and death and destruction. They don't lead to anything better.
Eu teria que dizer que não concordo. E passo a explicar porquê. Primeiro, Aristóteles é descoberto já no século IV ou V com Santo Agostinho, não é? Eu estudei muito as Dark Ages, eu estudei filosofia, e chamam-se Dark, mas na realidade não tem Dark. Tem muita filosofia, tem muita mistura de teologia, mas há progresso da civilização. Outra observação que fez várias vezes sobre as guerras da religião, eu devo dizer que já vi mais do que 2 estudos, eu acho que talvez tenha, eu não sei que foram 2 ou 3, mas que contabilizam todas as guerras que houveram na humanidade, e guerras religiosas representam entre 2 a 5% de todas as guerras que existiram. Ou seja, quase todas as guerras têm a ver com território e transações de bens e rotas, sejam marítimas, terrestres. Ou seja, tem tudo a ver com património e dinheiro. Eu sei que existe essa ideia de que são as religiões que fazem as guerras. Eu não estou a dizer que a religião não tem os seus problemas e não causa danos à civilização também. Eu, no ponto de vista cristão, o que eu aprendo com o ensinamento de Jesus é que não deve haver uma ligação entre o Estado e a religião. Jesus divide muito bem essa ligação. E eu não acredito em sociedades teocráticas.
Sure.
E também concordo que quando uma sociedade se transforma teocrática, ela tem uma tendência para produzir pobreza e dificuldade. No entanto, o próprio iluminismo nasce da crença religiosa de que o mundo é inteligível. Ou seja, a ciência nasce nos mosteiros, a ciência nasce dentro do próprio cristianismo. Ou seja, eu sei que depois se muda a narrativa e o iluminismo é que resolve tudo, mas eu acho que não é 100% factual essa observação histórica. I'm
We're
not
going to
here,
disagree.
I'm not here to defend religion.
Yeah, but let me just give you an alternative
I
history.
am.
Let me just give you an alternative history, and Don and I are actually writing a book on this. So this is something we're researching right now and writing about it.
Perfect.
But science is discovered by the Greeks. Science starts in Greece way before Christianity. You get the beginning of astronomical observations. You get the beginning of medicine. You get the beginning of mathematics and geometry, and really every science has its beginning with Greece.
Mm-hmm.
When Christianity rises, and Christianity comes to dominate the world, Constantine makes Christianity not the official religion, but an official religion, and a legitimate religion.
Legalized the religion.
It legalizes it in 300 something
325.
AD. And then Justinian after that makes it the official religion.
78.
And from that point, for 1,000 years, there is almost no science in the West. I mean, none. So, for example, there's not a single astronomical observation made from about 400 AD to 1400 AD. There's just nothing. And the same is true of medicine. The same is true of mathematics.
Mas também houveram problemas políticos, não foi só a religião como definição.
Yeah, but let me make the link, right? Let me make the link,
but the
right?
correlation.
So at the same time, from about 900 AD to about 1200 AD, lots of science and math is being done, and new science and new math are being done, not in Christianity, but in the Muslim world.
Mm.
Why? Because the Muslims discover the libraries in Byzantine of Aristotle and the Greeks and the scientists, and they embrace it. And at some point, they reject all that in the name of religion. They rediscover religion and they reject all that, and their civilization still hasn't recovered to this day, right? As a consequence. At about the same time, Christianity, in the Christian world, they rediscover Aristotle and they rediscover the Greeks, and then suddenly
from Arabic translations.
Yes, from the Arabic translation from Spain, from Andalusia.
Exactly.
So and Portugal, where this culture was still being held alive. And once they expose themselves to those ideas, not the ideas of Christianity, those ideas, suddenly there's a flourishing. You mentioned Augustine. Augustine doesn't really believe in a separation of state from church. The city of God is not a separation of state from church, really. And Augustine doesn't believe in science. Augustine is not an Aristotelian. He's a Platonist, and Plato's the bad guy in history. If you want a bad guy in history, it's Plato. Because
I don't agree.
Yeah, I know. I know. But Aristotle's the good guy. Aristotle's the good guy. Plato's the bad guy.
The Plato side, you are in the Aristotle side.
Look, Christianity is Platonic. Christianity is a Neoplatonic religion.
Uma diferença, uma coisa engraçada que existe no mundo, na observação da história, é este conflito entre as ideias platonistas e aristotélicas que vão aparecendo em diferentes séculos a competir uma com a outra.
I think that's right. I think that's right. And look, at the end of the day, when Aristotle is successful, when Aristotle has cultural significance, humanity does well. And when Plato does, humanity does badly. And I think that's true of Christianity. I mean, I think it's true of Western history. If you look at when, yes, there's some progress in the Dark Ages. They're not completely dark, but it's very little. It's very little compared to what comes after, and it's very little what comes before. If you look at Rome and its technological advancements, its wealth, the aqueducts, the road system, it's amazing. I mean, they had a pretty cool civilization. Now, it was brutal. It was not a nice place, but technologically, the Dark Ages are backward.
Yeah,
they're dark. And then things get better when Aristotle comes back into the world, when Greek ideas come back introduced, when science comes back. That's when you get Aquinas bringing Aristotle back, and you get it embedded more into Christianity. And then you get a Renaissance, and you get an Enlightenment, you get America, and you get the Industrial Revolution. Yep. So, to me, if we're looking for a source for morality, if we're looking for a source for knowledge, it's Athens. It's not Jerusalem. Even though I was personally born in Jerusalem. I
nice.
look at Athens as the place
Of morality.
of morality, as the foundation of morality. Yeah, I mean, they were the first people who really struggled and wanted answers through reason to what is good and what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. Before, again, religion gave you answers from outside, but the Greeks wanted answers from logic, from reason, from observation, from understanding. They weren't just their gods were not the kind of gods like the God of the Jews and the God of the Christians who told them what is right or wrong. Their gods were like frivolous human beings playing around. Yeah. So they had to find truth in reason, and in that sense, they are the origins and the foundations of Western civilization. They make Western civilization what it is. So our origins are not, again, in Jerusalem, our origins are really in Athens, and in particular in the Aristotelian school that comes out of Athens. So I think that's how you can get an objective morality. You can get it from reason. And what objectivism is trying to do is teach people how to find purpose and meaning, how to find real morality, real values and virtues, and how to live well from nature, from reality, from reason, not from revelation or social norms, social dogma.
Ok. Vamos largar um bocado a questão da teologia, senão não saímos daqui.
Okay.
Quero tentar compreender, que é um tema que me interessa muito, como é que é o framework de moral do objetivismo.
The moral framework of objectivism is that your moral purpose in life is to flourish, to be successful at living a good life. And then the question is, what leads to a good life?
Antes de avançar, o que é florescer?
Flourishing is ultimately happiness. It's eudaimonia from
Aristotle.
From Aristotle. It's this state of mind where you are one with yourself and with reality. You're happy.
Mas porquê que isso é bom?
Well, because it's all you have, right? So think about it. The fundamental choice all human beings have, and all living things have. The fundamental choice all living things have is to live or not to live. You survive or not to survive. That is the fundamental choice that exists. Animals and plants have it automatic to survive, right? You put a plant in a shady area, it'll find the sun. It'll look for its values. And you say, what's good for the plant? Sunlight and water. That's good for the plant. That's if you put moral terms on it, you can't because it doesn't choose. But morality for the plant is getting sun and water. Human beings don't have it pre-programmed. We don't know what's good for us. We don't have it implanted in our brains. It's not in our genetic code.
Porquê que não temos?
Because that's how we evolved. We evolved to have hardware without software. We have to write the software ourselves.
Isso é tão estranho. Ou seja, como é que nós conseguimos chegar até os dias de hoje e não estar evoluídos para procurar a sobrevivência e o bem-estar?
When you're born, you don't know what's right or wrong. When you're born, you don't know what up and down is. You don't know anything when you're born.
Mas as plantas sabem, os animais sabem.
Animals know, but human beings don't. It's amazing, right? And the reality is, and it's a huge innovation for evolution, if you will, right? Because if you think about an animal, it has to have everything programmed. It has to have everything, every situation analyzed. And as a consequence, when the environment changes, what happens to the animal? It dies because it can't adapt.
Correct.
Because the programming is fixed. Human beings don't have the programming. They've got the tools to program themselves. We have free will. We have the ability to think, observe reality, and learn. And therefore, when our environment changes, what do? We adapt, and we change the environment if we have to. Right? We create air conditioning. Air conditioning and heating in Porto. You need that, right, in order to live. So, human beings, just like every other species, have the option to live or not to live, to survive or not to survive. Once you choose to survive, the question is how. because we don't know, right? As we said, it's the programming is not there. How do we survive? Like, for example, how do we get food? Well, we need a means to get food. We need, nobody's born with a gene to hunt. Nobody has the gene to hunt. Some genius figured out, right? There's a bison or a fast animal. We can't outrun it. We're a pathetic animal, right? We're weak, we're slow, we have no fangs, we have no claws, right? But we have a mind. So we figured out we have, if a cheetah, a lion has strength, a cheetah has speed, we have a mind. So what we do is we figure out how to trap an animal. We figure out how to build weapons, how to build tools, how to build computers. That is the human mind. That is figuring it out. That's how we survive. How do human beings survive? By using their mind to solve the problems that existence throws at them. So what is good? If we want to survive, if survival is good, survival is what we've chosen. It's not that it's good, it's what we've chosen. Then we must use our minds in order to survive. The good is using our minds. And that's morality. Morality just says, if you want to survive as a human being, and not as an animal, but as a human being, then you should fully use your mind. You should use your mind to its fullest extent in every aspect of your life. You should. So if you had to boil Ayn Rand's ethics down to one word, think. And if you think about it, right, when we get into trouble in life, like with our girlfriends or wives or with our jobs or whatever, it's almost always because we don't think enough. It's almost always because we followed our emotions. Thinking is how we solve problems. Emotions is how we get into problems. So what objectivism says is morality says, think. Think before you act. Think about what you should do. Use your reason. Use your mind. So all of Ayn Rand, so for Rand, there are three cardinal values. Right? Reason, self-esteem, the sense that you have that you belong on this earth and you're capable of dealing with this, the sense that you get when you achieve your values, and purpose. So reason, purpose, self-esteem, those are the three values, and 7 virtues. So virtues are actions to achieve the values. Rationality, right? Think. Honesty, right? Why honesty? Not because of other people. Other people are good, but primarily because what does rationality demand? Rationality demands facts. Honesty says only go by facts. Don't cheat. Don't delude yourself. Why? Because it'll hurt you. It'll make you less able to survive. Survival is the standard, right? Less able to succeed in living. So
everything tudo está a emanar da natureza.
Yes, absolutely. Everything is coming from nature. It tells us what is good for us and what is bad for us, what will kill us and what is good for us. So honesty, independence, only you can think. Nobody can think for you. Nobody can eat for you. Nobody can live for you. Nobody can enjoy pleasure for you. Only you can. So you have to think for yourself and act for yourself and take responsibility in the deepest sense for your own life and your own values. You have an integrity. If you have an idea, you must act on it, because otherwise, what's the point of ideas, right? What's the point of coming to a conclusion if you're not going to act on it? What am I saying? You have to be productive. This is why businessmen are hero, because they're productive. Now, why do you have to be productive? Because nature doesn't supply you with the food, doesn't supply you with clothes. If you don't go out and grow the crop, do the hunting, or take the animal skin and turn it to, there are no clothes. So your survival depends on your ability to produce. So productiveness, being oriented towards the creation of values, is something necessary. And I am missing justice when dealing with other people. It's good for you to treat other people.
Mas é como quase se estivesse a falar dos valores todos do cristianismo.
No, and let me get to the 7th virtue.
Cheguei à mesma conclusão do cristianismo.
Absolutely not. Because what are the values of Christianity? Are charity, humility, and I don't remember them all. But you've got the virtues of Christianity, the exact opposite. So let me get you the 7th. What's the 7th virtue? The 7th virtue in objectivism is pride, which is exact opposite. Christianity, pride is one of the deadly sins. Right?
No, that's in the Catholicism.
Okay, so here's the theology again, right? It's
theology.
Okay,
of course.
Pride in Catholicism, which is the original Christianity, is considered a sin. So for objectivism,
Qual é o significado de orgulho?
pride means moral ambitiousness. It means wanting to be the best person you can be.
Exatamente o que diz no cristianismo.
I mean,
I'm sorry, but
a certain version of Christianity, which is not Catholicism and not most of the Protestants I know. But this is Aristotle. Aristotle says pride is the queen of the virtues. It's the virtue that summarizes all the other ones. It's the virtue that says you're taking your life seriously, taking all your virtues seriously, taking morality seriously.
Muito interessante. Vamos então trazer aqui alguns dilemas simples, morais, para aprendermos com um objetivista como é que podíamos fazer estas escolhas. Uma coisa prática.
Sure.
O cientista e o pai. Um cientista abdica da família para investigar a cura do cancro. Um pai abdica da carreira para educar os seus filhos. Ambos são produtivos, racionais e felizes. Qual é o mais moral segundo um critério objetivo?
There is no grading of them. If they both made those choices rationally, if they both made those choices because that is consistent with their personal values, what is important to them, then they're both morally equally moral. That is, the fact that the one guy cures cancer and 1 million people is saved and the other one is just as... That is not the standard. It's not how many people are benefited. The standard is, did they use reason to come to the conclusion? Remember, that's value number one, and rationality is the virtue. And did they sacrifice? That is, sacrifice is bad according to objectivism. So giving up a value and not expecting something in return is bad. Mm-hmm. So did they do this consistent with their hierarchy of values? Was being a scientist more important than spending time with a family? That could be in some cases. Is this person educating their kids more important to him than a career? That is quite possible. He could take that education, the kids, as his career, and then it's completely viable. So both could be moral, both could be immoral, right? If the guy going to do the cancer is doing it because he wants to, he's focused on other people and he just wants to cure, wants to make the world a better place. He doesn't really care about his own life. He doesn't really enjoy the science. He doesn't. Then he's a bad guy, right? And if the parent really, and if the parent,
ele não pode ser bad guy por curar milhares de pessoas.
Of course, he can be a bad guy. And the parent, if the parent loves his career and enjoys every moment of his job and is giving that up, and he actually, he could hire a teacher to teach his kids, but he's going to teach his kids. That's a sacrifice, and that's a bad guy. So they could each be good or bad, depending on their motivation and depending on why they are doing it.
É, compreendo. É engraçado que isto também torna a própria moralidade um pouco subjetiva, não é? Ou seja, a estrutura racional da moralidade vai depender também de questões emocionais e de questões culturais. Ao fim, ela vai ser contaminada.
Never
também.
on emotional and never on cultural. It depends on reason. That is, it's not subjective.
Mas é possível nós nos separarmos da nossa emoção, ou seja, a razão não está sempre contaminada com emoção.
Yes. First, absolutely, we can separate from emotion, and we have to separate from emotion. We better be good at it, because as I said, you get into trouble when you don't do that. But look, objectivism gives you an objective, absolute standard. But every human being is going to be different. And this is the beauty. It's not a dogmatic morality. It's not a morality that says, cure cancer. If you don't cure cancer, you're a bad person, right? It says, if being a scientist, and in the context of science, if that's what interests you, follow your interests. But it gives objective standards. It doesn't give specific things that you must or mustn't do. It's not like you have to go to church every Sunday or you're a bad person, right? It says you have to follow your reason. That is the objective standard. But then that has to correspond with your values, your personal values. So in a sense, objectivism and morality is personal, but not subjective. Subjective means not based on reason. Subjective means...
Subjetivo significa que depende do sujeito.
Yeah, but this doesn't depend on the subject. It depends on the facts. And that's what objectivity means. See, objectivity means there's a standard and then you apply the facts to it. And the facts can change from situation to situation. And depending on the facts, that's how you determine if something is moral or not.
Mas isso poderá ser uma simplificação da realidade, na medida em que nós temos os factos e temos o agente racional, e este agente racional tem um determinado nível de conhecimento, de determinadas influências culturais, até determinada capacidade cognitiva, e para interagir com esta própria realidade, não é? Elimina o conceito de verdade, fica a ser uma coisa subjetiva àquela realidade própria.
Subjective means that it's going by emotions, not facts. It means that it isn't being guided by reason. So reason is not dependent on your on your intelligence. You can have a low IQ and still have reason. Reason means you go by facts. Now, you might not be a sophisticated, be able to do sophisticated stuff, but most moral questions are not particularly sophisticated. They don't require high-level reasoning and abstraction. They require an understanding of reality and the facts involved and what your actions are, and what your values are. So, morality requires introspection. It requires knowing who you are. This is the. I mean, in a sense, alternative moralities, dogmatic moralities, religion, for example, is a lazy person's morality. Morality is dictated from above rather than something that you have to actually make choices about. And those choices are not always easy to make because they require introspection and require you to attain facts, objective facts, and make sure that they're true.
Eu não sei se concordo absolutamente. Na moralidade que Cristo traz, é preciso pensamento, é preciso reflexão, é preciso meditação, porque elimina realmente o legalismo que vinha do Velho Testamento, não é?
But if that's the case, then it's also personal, right? And you're rejecting it. You're saying because
é bastante pessoal, sim, concordo.
So I think objectivism is personal and objective. Objectivist morality is personal and objective. It's not dogmatic, and it's not rule-based from some external force that is dictating what morality is. You have to figure out how to apply reason and honesty and integrity and pride to your life. And that's not necessarily easy to do in all such circumstances. And it requires really using your mind.
Sim, eu concordo com isso. Eu só, quando olho para a filosofia, eu deparo-me com a problemática de que não é difícil para mim torcer a moralidade na direção que eu achar melhor, não é? Ou seja, eu vejo no objetivismo alguns valores intrínsecos, como o valor da vida, por exemplo, não é? Ou seja, eu poderia dizer no objetivismo que se for para mim melhor matar outra pessoa, eu devo matar essa pessoa.
Yeah, but you're probably wrong unless you're doing it in self-defense. That is, sometimes you need to kill somebody. When somebody's running at you with a knife, then it's probably better to kill him than be dead. So self-defense is a situation in which it would be moral and rational to kill somebody. But there is no other situation in which it's moral to kill somebody. There just isn't. And we could go through, examples and so on. But the reality is that killing another human being negates the value of life. And by negating the value of life, you negate the value of your own life. And by negating the value of your own life, you're doing something immoral. You're working against that survival issue, right? You're working against survival because you're saying the value of your life is diminished. It's your life is not valuable.
Se houver comida aqui suficiente só para mim e não para nós os dois, eu não devia ficar com esta comida.
So this is what Ayn Rand says about situations like this, right? She calls them lifeboat scenarios, right? These are lifeboat scenarios. Mm-hmm. She says there is no right answer. Lifeboat scenarios are not part of morality. Mm-hmm. Morality is not for lifeboats. And modern philosophy would like us to believe that that's what morality is about, the lifeboat. Mm-hmm. But none of us live in a lifeboat. We live in the real world. And on a lifeboat, if I kill you to keep all the food, or you kill me to keep all the food, or we split it and we both die, they're all bad choices. Not a single one of those are good choices that are life-enhancing in any kind of way. So, yeah, don't don't get on lifeboats. Don't get in those situations.
Durante 1900
but let me apply this to the real world. Right now, there are children. I'm going to make this up, but there are children in Africa dying of starvation. It's a lifeboat. I could give them my food, and I don't, because I've made a choice that they're so far removed that I am putting the interest of me and my children and my family and my life above, and I'm not willing to sacrifice any of that for the sake of a child in Africa. That's a reality. We all do it, right? How much, you might give some money to Africa, but you could give more and more and more. And every time you don't give the money, some kid is dying. Now, I know that that's not my responsibility. It's not my fault. And I have no moral obligation to feed every child in Africa. My obligation is to my life and to myself. So I'm not going to kill a child in Africa, but I'm not necessarily going to help every child in Africa. And I don't feel 1 ounce of guilt as a consequence. That's because objectivism empowered me to say my life is what's important. So in that sense, you can always create a scenario where it's my life versus their life, but I'm not going to kill anybody for that. Again, unless we're really on a lifeboat, lifeboat, and then I don't know what I would do.
Mas uma coisa engraçada é que, por exemplo, em 1900, o homem médio na Inglaterra tinha 1,5 metro. O mundo era completamente diferente. Não havia comida para toda a gente. E nós vivíamos assim até há 100 anos atrás. Ou seja, a vida era um lifeboat durante milénios até chegarmos agora. Se calhar por isso é que a filosofia do objetivismo aparece agora, não é? Ou seja, porque aparece na altura da fartura, não é? Onde agora podemos, de forma mais objetiva, dizer o que é bom e o que é mau, não é? Mas antigamente, se calhar, estaríamos sempre num lifeboat.
I look at it differently. I mean, the only reason that life was more of a lifeboat scenario 200 years ago, 1900 already, things were better, but 1800 or 1700, is because they didn't have the fundamental ideas of objectivism, not even as a system, but even in the basic ideas. That is, what led us to be rich and fat and have a lot of money and a lot of food? Capitalism. Freedom,
technology,
but technology is a consequence of capitalism and freedom. You don't get technology without capitalism and freedom. It's not an accident. All the technology starts at around 1800, and that's post the founding of America. It's post the Enlightenment. It's post these ideas. So the solution to hunger in 1800 is not charity. The solution to hunger in 1800 is capitalism. And by advocating for capitalism, by advocating for not giving people charity, but instead investing the money in machinery, that is the solution to the problem. So, it's only a zero-sum world. It's only a lifeboat scenario when we force it to be a lifeboat scenario. When people are free, then it's very rare. I'm not saying there are no lifeboat scenarios, but it's very rare to have a lifeboat scenario. The reality is that the solution to humanity's zero-sum problem is freedom. And freedom creates win-win relationships, which is the essence. Think about the essence of objectivism in terms of interpersonal relationship is win-win. It's trade. Trade is I give something up, you give something up, and both of us win, which is kind of a shocking outcome, right? I'm better off and you're better off. Like I buy an iPhone, I'm better off. I gave up $1,000 because the iPhone is worth more than $1,000 to me. And Apple's better off. They made a profit. And that's the beauty of free exchange and free engagement. And it puts to myth the idea of a zero-sum world in which whatever I take, I'm taking from somebody else. No. We're trading, we're producing and trading. That's the essence of human interaction, production and trade.
A liberdade também emana da natureza?
Yes, because it is the state in which human beings can be human. That is, freedom is that condition in which we can be moral, right? We can actually use our minds to pursue our values properly. Because once you put force on me, it limits the scope of using my mind. It limits the scope of my actions. It therefore limits my ability to be moral. If morality is about pursuing my life, My morality demands that I be free. So
You only need, apenas precisas de moralidade se fores livre.
well, you always need morality, but
Mas se não
you
puderes
can't
tomar-
really
se não-
apply
se não-
morality
Exato.
if you're forced, right? If somebody sticks a gun to your head, and if God says kill your son or else I will kill you, it's not morality; it's force, right? You do what you have to do. If the Nazi says it's your life or your son's life, there's no moral answer, right? Somebody's going to die. It's horrible. So force is anti-moral. And that's the great innovation of the Enlightenment. That's the great achievement of the United States of America. It recognizes that force is the enemy and that the role of government is not to impose force on individuals. The role of government is to liberate them from force, to extract force from society, to protect them from the crooks and criminals and the invaders. But except for that, leave them free, leave them alone. Don't intervene in human life. And that's what made the Industrial Revolution possible. It's what made America a great country. It's the idea that we limit government to the protection of rights, and rights are freedoms of action. So individual rights means that an individual has the freedom to act based on his mind in pursuit of his values. So it's very selfish and it's very rational. It's about an individual's mind. And so capitalism is made necessary by a morality of self-interest and a being that requires reason in order to survive.
Muito interessante. Desculpa interromper esta incrível emissão, mas tens o bebê na tua vida, é imperativo que ele use um destes e diga obrigado, mãe. Também temos babetes e todas as vendas destes produtos serão doadas a instituições que cuidam das mães e dos bebés. Podes encontrar o link na descrição. Let's go! A minha definição do capitalismo sempre foi a ferramenta que explora o egoísmo inerente humano em benefício de todos. Ou seja, a ideia...
I mean, the reality is that capitalism is a system of selfishness. There's no question about that. Capitalism is a system in which we get rewarded for being selfish. We enter the marketplace to be right. We enter the marketplace, and it's a system in which everybody's better off because of our selfishness. But that's not the reason the system is good. In my view, capitalism is good because it allows me to be selfish.
Okay.
That is because I can produce what I want to produce. I can consume what I want to consume. Nobody tells me what I can and cannot do. And nature is the test, right? Maybe I consume things that are not good for me. So I hurt.
Exactly.
And then I have to adjust my ways. But it's not the government telling me or you telling me, oh, don't do that. You're not allowed to do that. We don't allow it. We ban it. I get to choose what I do and what I don't do. And I get to learn or not learn from reality. So both as producers and as consumers, we are fundamentally selfish, right? Apple produces the iPhone to make a profit. And because the people at Apple love making beautiful things, right? But it's all them. I buy an iPhone not because I care about Apple, not because I care about the employees and making sure they have a job. I buy an iPhone to make my life better.
Yeah, for sure.
So capitalism is this beautiful uniting of two selfish interests. And we're both better off as a product, right? So everybody's better off as a consequence of that. But fundamentally, capitalism as a system is a system in which the government is all the government does is protect individual rights, and where property is privately owned.
Okay.
So it's a system of freedom. Okay. It's a system. Capitalism and freedom are basically political freedom, are basically the same thing. You're left free. You don't have to ask permission to consume. You don't have to ask permission to produce. You're left free. And we've never really had capitalism in that sense, right? We have some capitalism, we have bits of it,
Nos Estados Unidos,
but not complete capitalism.
Pouquinho de capitalismo interessante.
There's still a lot of regulation.
Yeah.
As you say, a lot of taxes. As I say, that's why, it's why I live maybe somewhere else. But, there's a lot of taxes, there's a lot of regulation, there's a lot of redistribution of wealth, there's
Mas
welfare.
aqui no Porto há mais.
It's much better than Portugal, granted, but that's not saying much, right? Because you guys way over-regulate. But yes, America was much freer 100 and something years ago. The late 19th century was probably the freest time in American history, probably in world history.
Okay.
Hong Kong was probably as freer than it was before the Chinese took it over, was freer than the United States. So, but we've never had pure capitalism. We've never had it where all property is privately owned and the government only.
Porquê é que não temos... Ou seja, se funciona, porquê é que nunca funcionou em lado nenhum?
Well, because nobody thinks it's moral. Everybody thinks it's immoral. Everybody thinks capitalism is an immoral system.
Mas nos outros sítios do mundo não existe essa influência cristã, por exemplo.
Well, no, but there's still similar influences. Like Confucius is not exactly promoting rational self-interest. It's not promoting reason. Indeed, reason as a concept is an Aristotelian concept and doesn't really exist in Asia. So, the whole idea of reason and self-interest and science as a method and as an activity is from the West. It's from these Greek ideas, and so it's still foreign to Asia. But I think there's a lot of potential for capitalism in Asia because there's no Christianity. I think Christianity is what holds back Europe and America. It's what away from capitalism. And that's why I think it has real potential in Asia. And you see that in places like North Korea and Japan and even China.
Mas a questão é, quando vou aos Estados Unidos, o que eu vejo é as pessoas que estão mais conectadas ao capitalismo são as pessoas mais religiosas. Ou seja, na esquerda costuma ser mais pessoal que até teu, não é?
Yeah, no, I mean it's true that in America,
se calhar existe uma ligação.
Yeah, maybe, but I think it works in the other direction, right? I say this to my Christian friends. I say to them, the reality is that you love Thomas Jefferson more than you love Jesus. And you love the Constitution more than you love the New Testament. And what you do is you manipulate the New Testament to fit the Constitution. Because the fact is, the founders of this country were deists. They weren't real Christians. They didn't believe in the Holy Trinity. They didn't believe Jesus was the Son of God. None of them, even the more religious ones, Adams and so on, they were all non-conventional Christians. They were very, very radical. And they would be radical today within Christianity for their beliefs. They were anything but conventional Christians. Nobody can come up with the idea and promote the idea and defend the idea and fight for the idea of individual rights and the sanctity of the individual from a religious framework. They all did it from a secular framework because their religiosity was very different than a conventional Christian.
Mas percebe que pelo objetivismo eu tenho que observar a realidade, e quando observo a realidade, a conclusão que eu vejo é que o cristianismo está ligado à liberdade e está ligado ao capitalismo. Isso é a observação atual que eu vejo do mundo real.
But nowhere else except the United States. America is the only place in the world where the Christians are on the right, technically, on the pole. But even then, think about all the Republican administrations that are Christian in America. How many of them are pro-capitalist? None of them. Not a single one of them. They all increase regulation. They all increase the welfare state. They just do it slower than the Democrats.
Right.
But if you want actual capitalists, real capitalists who really believe in freedom, you're looking at it. That's it. I mean, there aren't many of us in the world out there, and most of us who are secular. There's some. I'm not saying there aren't.
Tem aqui capitalista cristão.
I mean, there are some.
Make Portugal.
There are also some who are Christian, but I think the more we connect Christianity to capitalism, the harder it is to convince people about capitalism, because again, I think the ethics of capitalism are selfish. As we said, in the marketplace, we're each going in for our own, self-interest. Christianity doesn't advocate for self-interest. You might interpret it that way, but you're unique. Most people don't interpret Christianity as for self-interest. So what happens, this is what Adam Smith does, defend of capitalism. What Adam Smith says, look, yes, capitalism is all about self-interest, but that's a vice. We don't like self-interest. He's a good Christian, right? We don't like self-interest. So when you aggregate all these little vices, what you get is a societal good. Yeah, but that's cheating, right? If I add a vice to a vice to a vice to a vice to a vice, what I get is a big vice. I don't get a virtue. So nobody believes it. Nobody actually buys the idea that if everybody behaves in a way that we have said is a vice, you will get a virtue out of it. What I'm saying is no. The actual behavior that people engage in capitalism is a virtue. And when you're adding all virtues up, yes, you get one big virtue. People are better off.
Eu acho que queremos melhorar a nossa vida, queremos melhorar a vida da nossa família e queremos fazer isto de forma com transações voluntárias com as pessoas, eu acho que isto é servir. E se é servir, eu acho que é cristianismo.
Yeah, so I believe that caring about your own life and caring about your family life is damn selfish. It's not service.
Eu não
It's
acho-
pursuing your own survival in your own life and your own values. And you know, so I think that other Christians look at you and say, he's just using Christianity to justify his greed.
Ok. Isso não é o que eu vejo, o que eu leio no livro, sou sincero.
But
Ou seja,
I'm saying that's what traditional Christianity reads in the book.
Por exemplo, mesmo a lidar com... eu não sou católico, mas mesmo a lidar... Portugal é um país católico. Mesmo a lidar com padres e monges e pessoas muito, digamos, ligadas à religião, nunca senti essa pressão negativa de que eu não devo produzir, eu não devo procurar mais. Não estou a dizer que ela não existe de forma pela sociedade, que não está espalhada, existe. Mas eu acho que é uma corrupção da mensagem que diz no livro, é a minha opinião. Mas a questão é...
Think about what Martin Luther said, right? Martin Luther,
Não é muito popular em Portugal. So,
I'm sure,
what did he say? O que é que ele
he
disse?
said, you know, in this world, produce. It's ugly, it's selfish, it's not good, but it doesn't matter because it's this world. The only thing that matters is the other world. In the other world, there's no production, right? So he agreed. He said, yeah, go. I'm not going to guilt you. Just go do it. That's fine. But you're going to be judged. And what matters is the other world. And by the way, whether you go to heaven or hell in the other world is predetermined before you're even born.
Exactly.
So anything you do doesn't matter. So, you know, different Christian sects have found different ways around condemning production. But, you know...
Eu compreendo, mas...
But most Christian sects, most Christian beliefs are anti-self-interest and anti-material success. And those monks, what do they swear? They swear vow of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because poverty is virtue. Mother Teresa, when she went to help the poor, she didn't help them become middle class. She didn't want them to become middle class because the meek shall inherit the earth, and she believed that poverty was virtue.
Sim, mas não são todos os monges.
So again, there are different versions, right?
Por exemplo, há monges que eles trabalhavam, eles têm os seus campos, eles tinham património, ou seja, há muita variedade no mundo cristão. Mas o que eu diria é, caímos outra vez na tentação de falar de teologia. Eu antes de largar só o tema antes de ir para a atualidade, que eu gostava de saber qual é a sua visão sobre a atualidade. Antes de ir para a atualidade, eu gostava só de fazer uma pergunta, a última pergunta sobre a questão da moralidade, que é, qual é a visão do objetivismo em relação, por exemplo, ao aborto, que é um tema onde eu estou envolvido? Gostava de saber, uma curiosidade. É uma pergunta difícil?
No, it's an easy question,
Okay.
but a controversial one.
Oh.
Objectivism is pro-abortion.
Okay.
It's for objectivism, human life in terms of rights.
Mm-hmm.
The when you get rights is when you're born, and the actual individual that exists is the woman, and not allowing her to have an abortion is a violation of her rights. It's her body. She gets to choose what to do with her body. Objectivism is pro-abortion.
Como é que isso emana da realidade e da natureza?
Reality in nature, there's only
Ou seja,
one...
os animais normalmente não andam à procura do aborto, andam à procura de se multiplicar, não é? As plantas não andam à procura da destruição, andam à procura de se multiplicarem. Porquê é que torna-se razoável?
Yeah, but this is the beauty of being human beings. We get to choose. We get to decide what we want to do. We get to use birth control, for example, and we get if we get cancer, we can cure it. If we get a heart attack, you can get CPR, and we can animals don't do that. A lion gets a heart attack, the other lions don't rush and give it CPR. So we can actually change our biological destiny. And if you have an accident, have sex and have an accident and get pregnant, then we have another tool. One more tool in our toolkit to, if you don't want to have a baby, to prevent you from having a baby.
Então, se eu tiver um bebê que ainda não atingiu a racionalidade, nem pode escolher se quer viver e quer morrer, Porque é que eu nesse momento também não me posso livrar dele depois de ele ter nascido?
Because at that point, it is a human being. It's going to be rational. It has all the tools to be rational.
It's going to be rational,
and it is individuated. It's an individual entity. It's a separate entity from the mother. It is breathing for itself. It is eating for itself. When a fetus is in the mother, it does not breathe. It does not eat. All nutrients are coming from the mother. It is, in a sense, parasitic on the mother.
Okay.
So it's not an individuated human being.
Mas então podemos matar um bebê com 8 meses?
It's not a baby, it's a fetus.
E nesse caso podemos?
But yes. Now, I don't think that any doctor would actually do it.
Mas é moral ou não?
It depends. Is the baby completely deformed and is going to have a suffering life?
É bebê saudável.
For most women to wait until the 8th month to have an abortion is immoral, because if they don't want a baby, they had 8 months to choose not to have it. So to wait till the 8th month to do it is probably immoral. Not illegal. I don't think it should be illegal, but immoral. But let's flip it. Right? In month number 2, or in month number 1, or a week later, is it immoral to take a pill to abort? There's no baby there. There's no fetus there. There's just a clump of cells that could become a fetus and could become a baby, but it's not.
It will be rational one day.
Maybe,
maybe it's like 99.9%.
It could be one day, but this is the difference between a potential and a reality. Something that has the potential to become something does not gain rights. It has to be actual in order to gain the rights.
Yeah, mas é acerca de direitos ou é acerca da observação da natureza?
So there are two issues. There's a moral issue and there's a legal issue. They're not the same always,
moral
right?
issue. Yeah.
But the moral issue is the woman's right to her own life. That is the woman's moral right, morality, to her own life. And if she doesn't want to have a baby, the worst thing for her, and by the way, the worst thing for the baby, is to actually have it. If she doesn't want a baby and she has an opportunity, particularly in the first 2 trimesters, to abort it, then she should, because it's tragic for her to be stuck with a human being she doesn't want. And it would be terrible for the baby to have a mother that doesn't really want him. So for the sake of humanity, I don't want women to have babies they don't want.
As pessoas podem mudar de opinião.
Sure, but and most women who have abortions ultimately have children afterwards when they're ready. But I know a lot of people are not ready. And it's, and if it's a 12-year-old girl or if it's a 15-year-old girl, she's not ready and she shouldn't have a baby. And to force her to have a baby is a crime. It's a crime against her and it's a crime against the baby.
Mas estamos a falar de objetivismo, certo?
Yes, so objectivism says that if you have the tools to change your biological fate, use those tools. Don't accept fate. So biological fate says, imagine, I've got cancer. I could say, well, it's biology, it's nature, I'm not going to do anything about it. But that's not taking my life seriously. If I take my life seriously, I'm going to do something about it. I have a baby, I have a fetus I don't want, I'll do something about it. I have the capacity to do something about it.
Eu só não estou a compreender porque é que o bebê, depois de nascer, ganha direitos objetivos.
Baby, after he's born, gets political rights.
Mas isso emana da natureza?
Yes, because now he's a separate individual. He's a separate entity that now needs protection. Right? Now, our political system says that in a social environment, the government protects us from
mas parece-me um pouco arbitrário, ou seja, parece uma escolha axiomática e não baseada no framework racional. Ou seja, vamos imaginar os nossos amigos os romanos, por exemplo, que eram racionais, diziam assim: deixa o bebê nascer e se for rapaz, deixa-o viver, se for mulher, mata-o. Ou seja,
sadly, there's still cultures in the world that do that, and it's sad. Yes, but Rome and these other cultures are not built in rational principles of individual rights. It's not rational. It's completely subjective. It's completely emotional. It's emotion driven. I'm saying there's a principle. The principle is, once you're a human being, i.e. a separate human being, an actual human being, nobody can touch you. Right? Nobody can kill you. Right? You have rights. The government is there to protect you. until you're an actual human being, you're not protected by anything.
Ok.
So the objective differentiation is you're separate. You're perceptually a separate human, a separate being than the mother once you're born.
Se nós devemos perseguir o que é melhor para nós, não é? E se vamos viver numa sociedade que é patriarcal, como era no tempo dos romanos, onde as mulheres praticamente não tinham direitos, porque é que não é melhor eu matar o bebê depois de nascer e ficar só com o menino se for masculino? Ou seja, é um processo racional, não é emocional. É racional, é factual.
I get that, but I'm rejecting the whole Roman society. Roman society is not good. I don't want to model myself about Roman society. We're talking about what the model should be, not justifying or not justifying what the Romans did. The question is, what should society look like? And society should be a society of freedom where people have the choice to be able to make the kind of life for themselves that they want, and where the lives of individuals are protected by the government. And you become an individual once you're born. You're not an individual before you're born. Now, again, when you're a month old, you're just a clump of cells. There's nothing there. There's no human being there. There's a potential human being, but the potential doesn't have rights. Only the being has rights. Only the actual individual has rights.
Exato. A minha dificuldade continua a ser de onde é que emanam esses direitos objetivos da natureza. A natureza é extremamente violenta e prática. Porquê é que os seres humanos não deveriam fazer o mesmo?
Because it's not in their self-interest, right? Violence and that kind of practicality, it's not practical really. It's not practical for humans. In nature, animals survive through violence. And human beings survive by use of reason. And when we become violent, we hurt ourselves and we hurt our potential to be greater and better, to thrive in
Não é prático matarmos um deficiente depois de nascer.
No. I mean, is it practical? Maybe. But is it moral? No. Because again, once he's born, as long as he has a functioning mind. Now, if he's born with no mind, like there were certain Zika babies that were born and they were going to live in pain their entire life. Their brain was shrunk. Killing a baby like that is, I think, moral. Because all their life is going to be suffering. There's nothing, and there's no cure. There's nothing. And they're going to die within a few years anyway.
Como é que sabe que vai ser sofrimento?
Because sadly we know, right? They cry, they suffer. We know.
Por exemplo, existe um estudo muito interessante.
Suffering can be objectively measured.
Existe um estudo muito interessante de pessoas que têm uma doença onde deixam de conseguir comunicar com o mundo. Deixam de conseguir mexer as mãos, mexer os olhos. Então conseguiram, através das frequências do cérebro, comunicar com essas pessoas. E fizeram isto a 7 ou 8 pessoas. Essas pessoas não se conseguem mexer. Essas pessoas não conseguem comer. Essas pessoas estão absolutamente paralisadas no seu próprio corpo. E este processo de comunicação demorava um dia inteiro só para fazer uma frase. E a pergunta que lhes faziam é: achas que a tua vida merece ser vivida? E todos eles responderam que sim.
If they're not really suffering, then fine. So
you never know.
I don't know how and the law today says that as long as there's brain function, we don't disconnect them from the machine, right? But morally, if that neurologically and everything, they're not just can't move. They're literally suffering. I mean, these Zika babies are crying nonstop. They never stop crying. They're in pain all the time. To bring a baby like that into the world is, in my view, an absolute crime. And sadly, because of abortion laws in Latin America, many of these babies were born. So, but it's horrific, and it's sad for everybody. But imagine the parents having to live with a child who's constantly in pain, and it's their child, and they have to take care of it because it's their child. And imagine the child. The child will never have anything, never experience anything in life other than pain. That is not a life worth living.
Eu conheço pessoas que têm filhos deficientes e com limitações cognitivas muito grandes. A minha experiência é de que os deficientes tornam todas as outras pessoas melhores. Ou seja, pode ser uma visão objetiva e moral ter deficientes na própria sociedade, porque as sociedades que eliminaram os deficientes acabaram por se extinguir também. Elas deixaram de existir, os romanos deixaram, os espartanos deixaram. Ou seja, de forma objetiva, quando olho para a realidade, as sociedades que protegem a vida têm uma tendência muito maior à prosperidade e à
I
subsistência.
don't think anybody's advocating for killing the handicapped, but the reality is that, so it depends on the handicap, but I do think that for many people, having a handicapped kid is a tragedy. It's a tragedy. Now, they survive it. They make the best of it. They manage to find good in it, but it's a tragedy. It's a tragedy for the parents. It's a tragedy for the child. It's not a pleasant existence. It's far from the ideal. That doesn't justify killing them.
Okay.
It doesn't justify killing them. But we shouldn't want that, right? That's and no parent wants their child to be handicapped. No parent wants that to happen. If it happens, you have to live with it, and you do the best with it. But it's not something to be emulated and to be desired.
Oui.
Because we desire that.
Deixando agora a moralidade, é um tema muito interessante e esta filosofia realmente aborda a questão da moralidade e tenta torná-la objetiva, o que eu acho que não consegue, mas continuando, eu gostava de saber qual é a sua visão quando olha para o mundo e para a nossa realidade atual, para onde acha que estamos a ir, o que é que acha que poderá acontecer?
Yeah, I mean, I'm very worried about the state of the world as it is today. I think we're moving away from freedom and liberty. We're moving away from capitalism. We're moving away from, liberal governments that generally respect the individual rights of its citizens and moving towards more authoritarianism. Certainly that is the trend in the United States. There are political parties in Europe on the far right and on the far left who both would like to see individual rights and individual liberties be suppressed, and they are on the rise for a variety of reasons that have to do with the weakness of existing ideologies and existing governments. And I don't see much opposition to that. The opposition is very weak and stands for nothing, right? So you've got people who really believe in stuff that's bad, and then the other people don't really believe in anything. And so the bad guys tend to win in those kind of situations. So sadly, I see the world descending into more authoritarianism, more tribalism and collectivism. So much of our politics is driven by fear and hate, rather than love and a positive vision of the future and individualism. So that's what the fight is about. It's about saving kind of what I view as Enlightenment values, the values that created America, saving them from this attack from both left and right today, that wants to do away with our free system of government.
Ok. E nós, quem se interessar pela liberdade, o que é que pode fazer?
Well, I mean, I read Ayn Rand, in spite of your skepticism. Read Ayn Rand.
No, I like it.
Yeah,
I like the philosophy.
Yeah, so I would say educate yourself. The first thing I say to you is you first have to educate yourself. Learn about alternatives. And I think reading Atlas Shrugged or reading The Fountainhead, or she has a book called The Virtue of Selfishness, or Capitalism, Not an Ideal. These are books that are really important for self-development and for understanding the world around us. And then try to get involved. I mean, I am actively traveling around the world, trying to convince people that there's a better way, there's a better way there's a way to save capitalism, there's a way to save liberty and freedom. We're actually going to have a conference in Porto, in Portugal in mid-April. We're bringing in a number of speakers. I will be there.
Nice.
There'll be a number of other speakers and, students. If you're under 34, I think you can apply for a scholarship. You can find information about the conference and how to register, but also how to get the scholarship. If you go to Ayn Rand, AYNRAND.org.
Okay, we can put the link in the
/ start here. So that link, AynRand.org / start here, you'll get information about the conference. And we can also include a link directly to the conference below.
Okay.
It would be, Portugal, there's quite a few people very interested in Ayn Rand's ideas in Portugal. She's having a bit of a moment, I think, right now in Portugal. And I've been in Portugal lecturing for now, I don't know, 6-7 years on a regular basis. So I think there's quite a bit of excitement and there's quite a bit of potential in Portugal. So yeah, come. Even if you don't agree, it's a great place to come and engage with ideas and engage with people who are interested in ideas and debate. But if you've read Ayn Rand and if you're interested in ideas, then you should definitely come. Then it's a great place to hear speakers and to engage.
Perfect. Nós vamos pôr o link em baixo no podcast para o pessoal poder seguir. Em termos práticos, se o mundo caminhar nesta direção de autoritarismo, o que é que nós devemos fazer? Devemos ficar nestes nossos países? Devemos sair? Qual é a sua sugestão?
Well, I generally don't believe one should stay in one's country if one's interest dictate otherwise. That if you can live a better life in a different country, then go to a different country. I don't believe that we should be determined by the accident of where we're born. I was not born in the United States. I immigrated to the United States, and I'm happy I did. Mm-hmm. And if the United States gets a lot worse and is somewhere better, maybe Argentina, then I'll pack up and go there. So you have one life. You don't get a redo. You don't get to do it over. You might as well live the best life that you can live, and that includes the place. Find the best place on planet Earth that you can. Now, of course, immigration constraints make that more difficult. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons I favor more freedom of immigration, so that people can go to the best places for them. But yeah, do what you can to find the best place in the world for your values, for your life, to try to attain happiness and to avoid authoritarianism.
Nice. Yaron, foi um prazer muito grande falar consigo e ter este debate e este conflito de ideias. Espero que tenha também gostado e espero vê-lo em breve aqui em Portugal na conferência.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed this. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for pushing. This is good.
That's my job.
Absolutely. But having a robust debate is fun, and I think important. It's important for people to get a variety of ideas and then make their own decision, make their own mind up about what makes sense for them.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.